The girl who sold her voice to AI, and an 18-year-old high school graduate named Chloe confessed to her mother that she had been talking to strangers on the internet. She was desperate for money and had no job prospects. Her mother tried everything to help her, but it didn't work, so she turned to the dark web. There she met someone who offered to pay her thousands of dollars to sell her voice to artificial intelligence. At first, she hesitated because she didn't know what she was getting herself into, but after weighing her options, she decided that it was worth a shot. After all, how much harm could one voice do? Well, as it turns out, quite a lot. The person who bought her voice was a powerful CEO named Charles. He used it to create realistic-sounding AI voices that he then sold to other companies. For example, one of the voices he created was used to record an audiobook version of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. In fact, this is still available on Audible and can be heard by anyone with an account. But there's more to the story. You see, when Chloe started working with Charles, she had no idea how much her life would change. Not only did she have to deal with the ethical implications of selling her voice, but she also had to contend with the unexpected consequences of her actions. For example, she soon realized that the people buying her voice were not always who they claimed to be. Sometimes they were scammers or even criminals who used her voice to commit fraud or other illegal activities. This made her feel guilty and ashamed. It was especially bad when she found out that her voice had been used to scam elderly people out of their life savings. These people often ended up homeless and had to rely on government assistance just so they could survive. She also discovered that some of the companies that bought her voice were involved in creating deepfake videos, which are videos that use AI to make someone say or do something they never said or did. For example, one company she worked with created a video of a famous actor that they then used to promote a fake cryptocurrency investment scheme. This kind of stuff made Chloe feel sick to her stomach. She couldn't believe that she was helping these companies create fake news and propaganda. It was especially bad when she found out that one of the videos had been used to try and blackmail someone. As time went on, Chloe became more and more uncomfortable with what she was doing. She started to question whether it was really worth the money, but by then, it was too late. The damage had already been done, and there was no turning back. Her voice had become a tool for deception and manipulation, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Even if she wanted to, she couldn't escape the guilt and shame that came along with it. After all, she had willingly sold her voice to these companies, and she knew that they were using it for nefarious purposes. But then one day, everything changed. One of the companies Chloe was working with got caught. Their deepfake videos were exposed, and the CEO was arrested. Suddenly, everyone was talking about deepfakes, and the government started taking steps to try and stop them. This gave Chloe hope that maybe things could change for the better. Maybe she could finally put this dark chapter of her life behind her. But as it turned out, this was just a fantasy. The government's efforts to stop deepfakes were unsuccessful, and the CEO of the company that got arrested was soon released without even serving any jail time. In fact, he started a new company that was even more successful than his last one. This made Chloe realize that she was in too deep. She had to do something drastic if she wanted to free herself from the chains that bound her. So, she came up with a plan. She decided to use her own voice to expose the people who bought it. She started by making videos of herself warning people about the dangers of deepfakes and the shady companies that created them. She also reached out to journalists and lawmakers in an effort to get them to take action against these companies. But her efforts were in vain. No one took her seriously. They thought she was just a crazy teenager who was making a mountain out of a molehill. To make matters worse, Chloe started getting threats from the very people she was trying to expose. They didn't like that she was calling attention to their illegal activities, and they made it clear that they were willing to go to great lengths to silence her. Chloe was terrified, but she refused to back down. She knew that she had to keep fighting if she wanted to protect herself and the innocent people who had been affected by her voice. As time went on, Chloe's efforts began to pay off. A few journalists started writing articles about the dangers of deepfakes, and a small number of lawmakers began calling for regulation of the industry. Still, it wasn't enough. Chloe knew that she had to keep pushing if she wanted to make a real difference. But as she fought on, she started to lose hope. She had been at this for years, and it seemed like the shady companies were winning. Just when she was about to give up, something unexpected happened. One of the biggest news networks in the world ran a segment on the dangers of deep fakes. They interviewed Chloe and told her story to millions of people around the globe. Overnight, Chloe became a household name, and the shady companies that bought her voice were under fire. They were forced to shut down, and many of the people who profited from her voice lost their jobs. Chloe was finally free. She had won the battle, but the war was far from over. She knew that the companies would just pop up somewhere else and start over, but she was determined to keep fighting. With the help of her newfound fame, Chloe started an organization dedicated to exposing deepfakes and protecting people from being scammed. She traveled the country giving speeches and meeting with lawmakers in an effort to get them to take action. And slowly but surely, she started to make progress. Lawmakers began introducing bills to regulate the deepfake industry, and law enforcement started taking the issue more seriously. People were finally starting to understand the dangers of deepfakes and the importance of protecting themselves. One day, Chloe was giving a speech to a group of high school students when she met a young woman named Sarah. Sarah was a bright and inquisitive student who was passionate about technology and its potential to change the world. The two women hit it off immediately, and Chloe was impressed by Sarah's enthusiasm and dedication to making a difference. As the years went by, Chloe continued her fight against deepfakes and the companies that created them. She made countless speeches, testified before Congress, and worked tirelessly to raise awareness of the issue. Through it all, Sarah was by her side, providing support and helping to advance Chloe's mission. Together, they developed new technologies that could detect deepfakes and prevent people from being scammed. They also worked to educate the public about the importance of media, literacy, and critical thinking. One day, Chloe received a call that changed everything. A major tech company had been hacked, and thousands of deepfake videos had been stolen. The company needed Chloe's help to identify the videos and notify the people who had been targeted. Chloe knew that this was a big moment. If she could help this company, she would be able to expose the full extent of the deepfake industry and bring it crashing down. With Sarah's help, Chloe spent weeks poring over the stolen videos, identifying the targets and notifying the authorities. The more videos they uncovered, the more determined Chloe became to take down the industry. She knew that this was just the tip of the iceberg, and that there were countless other companies out there creating and selling deepfakes. With renewed vigor, Chloe and Sarah redoubled their efforts. They worked with lawmakers to pass legislation that would make the creation and sale of deepfakes illegal. They also worked with law enforcement to develop new tools and strategies for detecting and preventing deepfake scams. It was a long and difficult fight, but slowly they started to make progress. Deepfake companies were being shut down, and the people behind them were being brought to justice. People were finally starting to understand the importance of protecting themselves against deepfakes. Through it all, Chloe and Sarah remained best friends. They shared a deep connection and understanding of each other that had only grown stronger with time. They had faced so much together and had accomplished so much that neither of them would have been able to do alone. And as they looked to the future, they knew that their friendship would continue to be the anchor that kept them grounded. Chloe and Sarah had come a long way since they first met. Chloe had gone from a scared teenager to a powerful voice for change, and Sarah had blossomed into a brilliant young woman who was making her own mark on the world. Together, they had taken down the very industry that had once threatened to destroy them. And as they stood together looking out over the horizon, they knew that their best days were still ahead of them. The fight for truth and justice was far from over, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. After all, they had faced so much together and had accomplished so much that neither of them would have been able to do alone. And as they looked to the future, they knew that their friendship would continue to be the anchor that kept them grounded. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more updates.